Hello everyone, I'm back with session 5 and session 6 teaching memo. I'm trying to cut down on the length of these so it'll encourage you to watch them. First going to talk about written response assessment. Many colleagues stated that they prefer written response tests because they allow scholars to display their thinking process. As with all assessments, there's definitely a science to creating the 3 different types: short answer, extended response, or interpretive items. Not many of you took a stab at my teaching memo posts. Before I was kind of hurt by it, not really, but I understand why you're not doing it. But not that I agree with it, but but in 6A, Kathleen and Kristen responded to my post, and the article I shared about the use of written responses in math, which is, to me, is really important. Both were excited to add a written component to the number stories unit. Judith made a late night entry. Actually, it was this morning. She made an entry and shared a Teaching Channel blog post that gave some excellent insights into getting started with the process. And I believe I still have that up here. So there it is, the 5 keys to rigorous progress-based learning. Excellent Edutopia article for anyone who wants to look at it. I also want to share with you an article by Marilyn Burns, who works for Scholastic and is, many people consider, the guru of teaching math, especially in the elementary level. So I have an article here by Marilyn Burns that you should look at. It's very good. Several colleagues are struggling with written response in kindergarten. I shared a kindergarten rubric, and I will click on it here, and called Heidi's Song Kindergarten Writing Rubric, and you can see how it goes from pre-writing, letter strings, environment, print, sight words, beginning sounds, to transitional spelling. So something that some of you felt was worth looking at, and definitely showed a progression of how young scholars write. Rachel reacted to another article I shared by Short and Hartst, and this also gave several ideas. I have this in additional resources, but there are definitely some ideas. She liked Save the Last Word for Me, I believe was one of them, and journal writing or literature logs. So some good ideas here for young writers. Many of us have been confronted by written response tasks that have been vague and unclear. In our text, the authors describe 3 steps to making a coherent extended written response question. And this is something that, in my experience, in my lifetime as in education and as a learner, seldom saw it laid out like this. You set a clear and specific context, specify the kind of reasoning to be used, and point the way to an appropriate response without giving away the answer. This really adds to the clarity of your instructions. Ashley responded to my post by stating that she has encountered many written assessments whose instructions were not clear, and I would agree with her that these 3 steps would help with clarity. Jumping right into performance assessment. Performance-based assessment is a popular alternative for the anti-standardized test cabal. They claim that this is the only way to tap into and assess real-world skills and creative abilities. Many colleagues gave the Success Academy Stepping Stones, Infantis, and Pinnell assessments, where students read aloud and are assessed for fluency, phonics, and comprehension, as an example of a performance assessment. While the assessment involves the student performing, the criteria for grading are not shared ahead of time. Rather, it's like a checklist, and much like taking the verbal portion of the WISC IQ test, where you do, say, block design. I mean, it's not you're performing, but you're not, the grading criteria are not shared with you. Like if you do it and so quickly, you'll get this many points. So those are more of of assessments where students have to perform. It's not what I would call a performance assessment, but that's my opinion. Based on my opinion, the three criteria for a performance assessment are as described by Popham, his text I use in my other course, and you'll find a copy of his 2 chapters and additional course materials in session 4 and in session 6. He states that leading proponents of performance assessment suggest that they contain the following 3 criteria. 1, multiple evaluative criteria. The student's performance must be judged by using more than one evaluative criteria. In other words, you have levels, different characteristics of quality. And though each one of those characteristics is broken down into 3 or 4 or even 5 levels of mastery. Pre-specified quality standards. Each of the evaluative criteria on which the student's performance is to be judged is clearly explicated or explained in advance. So when you do a Fontes and Pinnell assessment, you're not giving the standards or the performance standards to be judged in advance. You're just assessing what they know at that time. And judgmental appraisal. Genuine performance assessment depends on human judgment, and it's usually subjective. The Fontes and Pinnell and stepping stones, I do not believe are subjective. It's the cut and dry. They either got it or they didn't. So I shared this information in my second teaching post. Kristen in group 6A was the only one in either group who responded, and despite my exceptional logic, still felt Fontes and Pinnell was a performance assessment. So with those 3 criteria in mind, I would have to say that guided reading, F&P, and stepping stones are more of a standardized assessment that requires a performance. Okay, creating student-friendly rubrics that have clear descriptions of quality to me is one of the most important takeaways of Chapter 6 and 7. If we are going to use rubrics to guide and grade student work, then we need to become experts in creating them. Many of you mentioned project-based learning, PBL, as an example of performance assessment, and for the most part I would say yes, they are. PBL is a hot topic in education these days, and Edutopia has adopted it as one of their go-to strategies. In Section 6A, I shared a video from that website that outlined the following 5 characteristics of effective PBL. 1, real-world connection. 2, key to learning. 3, structured collaboration. 4, student-driven. And 5, multifaceted. Now, Rebecca felt that Success Academy projects contain many of those elements. But using the Arctic PBL, which I'm not sure is in 1st or 2nd grade, I'm not sure, felt that the network gave the scholars too much information at her level, rather than allowing them to explore and problem solve. She also questioned the structured collaboration trait and felt hesitant to grade students on a group project. I agree, as do our authors, and you should only use them for assessing collaboration skills such as taking turns, active listening, asking open-ended questions. But you don't use them to grade content only using the group project. That really turns off your high flyers who feel like they do all the work and everyone else gets the credit. As an aside to the group work discussion, in my opinion, cooperative learning done right is a powerful teaching strategy, and I'm going to throw that in here because I think it's so important. However, many teachers think that just putting students in groups and letting them have at it is considered cooperative learning. Nothing could be further from reality. True cooperative learning must have the following 5 characteristics. 1, positive interdependence. The group can't accomplish the task without the involvement of every member. 2, individual accountability. Each member has to demonstrate they learn the material. So you have some kind of assessment for each student to make sure that each one of them has learned it. Face-to-face interaction. Students have to promote each other's learning through sharing, helping, and encouraging each other. And interpersonal and small group skills. And scholars are taught, and I know this happens at Success Academy, you teach scholars how to interact, how to ask good questions. So you're teaching skills like leadership, taking turns, conflict management, active listening, disagreeing agreeably, etc., etc. And also group processing. Once it's over with, the group continually, and at the conclusion of the event discusses how they are doing and what they need to improve in their group skills. So, if you want to teach scholars how to work effectively together, this is how you should go about it. Finally, I want to mention the characteristics of a good rubric that the authors, Chapui et al., described in the text on page 231. So often, teachers are tempted to search the web for a rubric that meets their needs and end up using one of the quick fix rubric creating sites like Rubistar. If you go into the oral presentation rubric and click on it, to see their description of quality is, quote unquote, shows a full understanding of the topic. Now, compare that to the indicators in the text. Clear main topic. All information is important to understanding the topic. Facts, details, anecdotes, and/or examples make topic come alive for the audience. Now, there's much more clarity to that description of quality than there is in shows a full understanding of the topic. What the heck does that mean anyway? So that's what I call a teacher-friendly description of quality. Be good consumers of rubrics and understand how to go about creating them. The authors give a good description of what a great rubric looks like on page 231. You have to be able to use it to give helpful feedback to scholars. So that's it. I will be back in 9 days. Enjoy the 4th of July.